Evening, folks. Tonight, we're going to get the Spurs perspective on all things that's been going on with Tottenham from our man Ashe. They've won an incredible cup. They're about to have a transfer window. But what's next for them? And what's their view of Newcastle? Let's find out right here on Toon Tactics TV, folks.
Brilliant from Sham. And now Murphy can take on the shot. Fabian Schär
All right. Good evening, folks. Good evening. Always a blessing to be with you guys here today, no matter what you're doing, whether you're about to go to work or you've come from work or you're about to go to sleep or you just need to hear some background noise. You could have been listening to anything. You could have been watching anything, but you're right here with me. And I am blessed to have you tonight. I'm proper excited for tonight's show. We're gonna get the rivals' perspective this time from Spurs and from our man Ashmatic. You guys already know that it's been a very big influence in the work that I've done. So it's all in terms of how I do my shows, presentations, scouting reports, all of that. So you guys already know that it is an absolute pleasure to have him on the show. So let's not stand to attention too much. Let's get our man on the show. Ashe, what's going on, man?
Big up to man. What's going on, broski? Yeah, listen, big up to the chat as always. And if you are watching this later, please do make sure you like and share and subscribe if you haven't done already, man.
Thank you for reminding me. I keep forgetting to do it. And the guys, for some reason, last week's show, the chat kept on reminding me. I got like the most likes ever. I'm like, I gotta keep doing it. Then like,
well, listen. When it's someone else's show, I'll remember. When it's my own show, I'm thinking about 101 things, trying to focus. Oh yeah, what about that? Do you know what I mean? My mind's everywhere. Like a straw chasing a nut.
Anyway. Exactly. And we've already got a few people in the chat. Aaron Cave, always one of our big regulars. Always a blessing to see Aaron. Good evening, Philip. Hope you are well. I'm living life to the full, sir. Living life to the full. Registered Kev. Big up, sir. Good to see you. God bless you, sir. Big up. Looks like it was resolved quick, Toon. What happened? What was resolved? Let me know what you're talking about, Registered. Was there some news that we haven't heard about? Do let me know. And also, good to see. The Mbeumo news. All right. We'll get to that in a moment. Josh, Toon, Army, Philly, evening, Philip, evening, sir. God bless you. And as Registered Kev, the Mbeumo news. Speaking of Mbeumo news, folks, for tonight's show, and I'm going to be doing a bit of a series, but it's going to start with my guy. We want to get, like I said, from a rival's lens. We want to get it from a. We want to not just obviously as a Newcastle channel, but we want to be able to have a comprehensive view of football, all things going on. So tonight we're going to focus on all transfer news, but we're going to focus on Spurs. We're going to do a quick review of their season. We're going to talk about just like what their play style is, what all about their squad, what they're looking to do going forward. And Ashe is going to be is going to be providing us that perspective, and we're going to get obviously their perspective on all things Newcastle as well. So I'm super looking forward to that. So before we kick things off, and for the first part of the show, we're going to talk a little bit of just a few news as that. Obviously, transfer news that's been going on. Obviously, Register Kev mentioned Mbeumo. We're going to talk about him as well. But I want to be able to get some Spurs news as well, because I haven't been keeping up as much as I would like to. I haven't been hearing much either. And then we're going to get a breakdown of Spurs' season with Ashe. Kind of read out some stats and get some information about their squad and who they're looking to buy, and then finish off the show with, I forgot what we're going to finish the show with probably some more kind of information, transfer news that comes in as well. So proper looking forward to that. So Ashe.
Yes. Broski.
I'm going to leave Mbeumo for one side for a moment. I'm going to come back to him. I wanted to know what's going on with Spurs, like in terms of news in general. What's been going on? What have you been hearing?
I'll be real. We missed out on Mbeumo too. So we're with you, man. We have to hold the L too, man. We've got tears. Drink for the homies, man. Like, listen. I'll be real. We even looked at Cunha as well. We were looking at
Okay.
Cunha, and we lost out to Cunha. We lost out to Mbeumo. So it's weird because we won the Europa Cup, and obviously,
Yes.
like, yes, well, yeah.
Congratulations. Yes.
But unfortunately, even though it was like, as I said to you behind the stage, 40 years or 41 years since we won a major trophy, and 17 years since we last won our last trophy. So it's been a long wait, and the fans were bursting. So whilst that was all going on, we weren't sure and still aren't sure who our manager is going to be the next season. So that's what's going on right now. That's the reason why you haven't heard much from Spurs in terms of like transfers or rumors. The club, they've been completely quiet. They've been linked us to they've been linking us to Marco Silva, Thomas Frank. He's at the head of the queue apparently. But the fans aren't happy. Number one, they think Thomas Frank isn't the level that we should be looking at. If we're going to go for Thomas Frank, then we should actually just stay with Postecoglou. What's the point? It's a sideways step, a lot of people are saying.
Right.
So that's the mood at the moment in the actual fan base. Even people that were Ange out are now switching over to be Ange in because of that news. They're really not happy with that. And the fact that Inzaghi has just been announced, or he's been heavily linked with the Saudi job. I can't remember the name of the club exactly, but there's been a massive update in terms of Inter Milan and fraud. So that's a separate story in itself. However, a lot of fans are saying if we're going to lose to Postecoglou, if we're going to lose him, we need to have a manager.
Guy. Leave this Paratici guy. Sorry, man.
Bro, I'm telling you, it's a madness.
Wherever he goes, crime follows.
Listen, I'm getting PTSD, but let me move. I'm saying that the fans are saying if we're not getting Inzaghi type of level manager, like we don't want to know. Like the chest at Spurs is high, real high, and you wouldn't know them because you've met some of them already. So
yes,
they think where their club should be. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Me personally, I'm controversial. I'm not mad at a Thomas Frank. I respect him. I like his personality. I like that he's a man-to-man manager. I like that he's taken a championship club into the Premier League. And normally what happens, they get, found out, relegated the next season, or the club doesn't invest heavy enough. He's done it on a shoestring budget. Do you know what I mean? He's had to sell players like Ollie Watkins, who he had in the championship. He had to sell Ivan Toney eventually. He had David Raya. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So he's had players.
Eddie Howe.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I saw. I saw, wow, this is just like Eddie Howe. Do you know what I mean? That the come up. He stayed in that league 4 seasons, and it's been choppy. It's been up and down. It's been 11th. It's been 9th. It's been up and down. But nonetheless, he's been he's actually outscored Spurs. And I know we're going to talk about Spurs a lot more in depth in terms of goals, because that's what everyone focuses on Spurs. Oh, but look how much goals they've scored. They're still in the plus. Do you know what I mean? He's scored more. I think 3 of his strikers, I think they've got like 20 plus goals each. That's got to be some type of record. So yeah, for me, he's improving players, improving youngsters. He gets the recruitment right, and obviously the back staff need to get credit for that. But he obviously is involved in that. He's really heavy on data, and our director of football, Langer, real quick, he's a man that is heavily on data. We recruited him from Aston Villa because he was like their top data guy, and we were trying to move to the Brentford and Brighton model. And so those guys, he's like Scandinavian Langer, and he talks to Thomas Frank outside of Spurs. And so it was inevitable that, we were going to be linked with him. And the way they create chances, Frank heavily relies on data because you have to, because when you're a smaller club, you have to think tactically differently. And like talking about tactics, I like the fact that you can play with a back 3, go to a back 4 or a back 5, obviously in and out of possession. Even when he plays in the back 4, he can switch to a back 3 in game. So I like the little tactical tweaks, and he's very adaptable. So it's completely the opposite to what Ange was scrutinized for, because fans were even saying, the Ange outers were saying, look, if he just adapts, they can tolerate him. But because he was so steadfast on this is who we are, mate, like we saw our league form just go down and down and down. And it was a lot to do with the pressing, the man-to-man press, the Gurgen press that, you know, Slot was famous for. Do you know what I mean? So listen, register Kev. Every Spurs channel, if you switch on the Spurs channel right now, all you're gonna see is arguing. He just won us our first trophy. No, get him out the league form. But you know what's funny about this comment? Someone said about in one of my groups. They said their friend was on a holiday with Grealish, and they saw Grealish, and they were like, "Oh, would you come to Spurs?" And he was like, "Oh, that's not a bad shot, actually." Do you know what I mean? I don't know. You know, I'm on ITK. I'm just saying. What happened? But whether I would take Grealish or Sane, I would prefer Sane over Grealish, me personally. And there's not much difference in age. I know Grealish is now 30 years old, and he's 29. I think he's going to be 30 next season. I think he's a January baby, so I think in January he turns 30. But the thing with Sane, which I like, is he had a big injury which affected the way he played. So, you know, like Sane in Man City is explosive on the left-hand side, on the outside. So when he went to Bayern Munich, he picked up that knee injury and he had to adapt the way he plays. He's still quick because I think they registered his speed, and his speed was still like around levels of, I don't know, like faster than Son, basically. And Son obviously is losing his leg, but do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's still pretty fast. And from what I was reading and researching is that when he plays, he now is more of a key passer. So he's more of a playmaker. He passes through the lines a lot more. So you'll see his short to medium passes, they're really high. His through balls are higher. So he's coming off the wing, coming on the inside, getting his head up and playing players in, as opposed to just going down the outside, using his pace and crossing the ball into the box to find like Harry Kane. You know what I'm saying? But that's the reason why I'm like, okay, that's slightly different. He could do that off the right, he could do that off the left. And I remember in the Champions League, when he was playing against Arsenal, he was giving them a lot of trouble. Do you know what I mean? And obviously, he's lost his place to Elise. I mean, you know,
yeah.
what can I say, innit? But the games he has played, he hasn't had a lot of minutes, but the minutes he has come on, he has still generated, I believe, I've got the stats right in my head, but I think it was like something like 8 goals and 5 assists. So, you know,
still doing it.
He's still doing it. He's still putting up numbers. So out for me, I look at the output, and then I look at like the eye test, obviously, as well, watching a player, and he doesn't look like he's on his way out. He looks like a player that can come into a squad and elevate it, in my opinion. So I'd rather have a Sane. And also with Grealish, I just feel like he'll be on the bender with Madison. I think the man will be in a casino, you know, doing dice. You know what I'm saying? I'll take the black one, bro. Yeah. And they're drinking like in the pub, getting carried out. Yeah, it's long. But I do have like the romantic side of me does like Grealish because his ball carrying is his dribbling. I shouldn't say them two together, but yeah, listen, he like I can imagine him in the midfield. You know, being the 10 that he was, I would love to see that. I can't lie, because under Pep, he was issued out on the left, and you know he had to do a lot more defending. And I think if Ange was to stay and he had a player like Grealish, I think Ange doesn't really get involved. You don't really see you more or less see him like that. So you let Grealish just do what you want, man. Just figure it out. And I don't mind that. I don't mind a bit of freedom. Do you know what I'm saying? Let the boys just run anarchy. So yeah, that's why I'm with that comment.
So Grealish, Sane are some of the, obviously, and then you also went in for Mbeumo. I didn't hear too much about Spurs being in. I didn't know that you guys were that involved.
Yeah, so we were involved with Mbeumo. Obviously, like the window hadn't opened yet, but we were looking for players on the wings, because I'm jumping ahead now, but in terms of Spurs, our weakness, as much as we scored a lot of goals, our front three were quite wasteful.
Yeah.
there's been a lot of games where we've pumped teams. Like we've gone to Everton second game of the season. Sorry, so the first game of the season we drew with Leicester 1-1, and then the second game of the season we played Everton at home, and it was a big controversy because Mbeumo was on the balloons, isn't it?
I think he's back on them this summer.
He was on TikTok like with his broski. Like,
so you have Mbeumo, Jack Grealish, and Maddison in the outgoing.
It's a party. What can I say? North London. Hey, it goes off. But yeah, basically, he got dropped the first game because of that, and then the second game, he apologized, whatever, and then he scored the opening goal at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and we ended up winning that 4-0. We battered them. So we've had games where we just battered teams. Ironically, we beat Brentford 3-1 as well. And Brentford are really good at scoring in the first minute. I think they did it in 3 games in a row.
Yeah.
Their first goal inside the minute, which is a record. But anyway, we beat Brentford 3-1. We beat Man City 4-0. We beat Man U about 4-0 or 4-1. Who else did we beat? This is off the top of my head. West Ham, we beat 4-0 as well. Aston Villa, I believe we beat either 4-0 or 4-1. So those games where we're winning by 4 completely inflated our numbers. Do you know what I mean? So there's the other, because that was like we lost 22 games, right? The other 22 games we lost always 2-1, 1-0, 2-1. Like Palace was 1-0, Ipswich was 2-1. Who else was an embarrassing loss? What's the Palace? I said Ipswich.
Didn't you lose to Leicester?
Leicester, yeah, we lost Leicester 1-0 again. So all those games, yeah, Forest was 1-0. Fulham popped us 2-1. So all those type of games there. It's only Southampton we beat twice, and yeah, Wolves beat us as well. Yeah, only Southampton, Manchester United, and was it West Ham? No, it wasn't West Ham because we ended up drawing to West Ham. I think it was only 3 teams. Brentford, that was the other team. Brentford. Those were the only 3 teams that we beat twice all season. Do you know what I mean? So every time we lost it by the goal, by the odd goal, by the goal, by a goal. So that's the reason why I'm saying, in terms of firepower, our numbers are slightly inflated because when we won those little games we did win, we won it by a big margin.
Right. Well, that's a good segue actually into Tottenham as well. I've started a few comments for the guys I'm talking about on Mbeumo and transfer. We'll talk about it. We'll tie that in. But just want to say Aaron Kainf as well here says Thomas Frank is a terrific manager. Think he would be a good replacement for Ange for Spurs. Yeah, Ash agrees, definitely. Consistent Mag FC. Aaron Bruno's our highest paid player, 160k.
That's right. Yeah.
Bruno's our he is. I think because I think Mbeumo allegedly is asking for 250. I doubt that's. I'll be amazed. I'll be amazed if that's the case. Josh Tsunami Philly. I think I think whoever gets Frank, it would be an improvement. Less maybe Liverpool, Newcastle, and Man City.
He was actually linked to Liverpool heavily before they went to Slot. And they were comparing his style to Slot's, ironically, because it's really direct at times. I know everyone looks at Brentford as a defensive side, but what they do is they try to play the ball into the forwards, down the channels as quickly as possible. And then the second balls is where they try to turn the ball over. And then that's how they push their team up. And then because they're playing close to the goal, that's where they try to hit and get the result and get the win. So, yeah, like similar to Liverpool under Klopp when he was gung-ho, he often would try to win that ball as close to the goal as possible so then they could score goals. And that was their techers, isn't it?
That was their thing. We've got Wobojog. I don't want to lead this up too long, but we've got the deputy commander of relegation in the relegation brigade in the house today.
I mean, but we got a trophy though.
We're gonna trophy though.
Well, we got a trophy.
Spurs in for Gahey too. Whoa, okay, I didn't realize that.
Yes, Spurs are in for Gahey, but he's rejected us as well.
He's rejected, yeah. How come you guys know about your rejection so quick? Like, I don't get it.
Oh, bruv. There's many ways, man.
Yeah,
There's many ways I know.
direct, bruv. Like,
I knew before it was on.
we get strung along in that. Like you.
Yeah, we know. They tell us. They let us know. I see that Newcastle like, the Spurs are like, nah, bro.
I'm not involved. Like, it's crazy. So, nice segue from relegation to location. And look, you're amongst friends here, Ash, as you know. I always tell people, because people forget, I'm not here. Like, you finished, as you can see here, 17th. Mm-hmm. I've been there. Most of the guys on the Toon fan here, we've been here, so there's no like, I can't believe it. So you're amongst friends that you can feel like you can open up here, isn't it? Like, in fact, we've been below 17th twice, so it's all good. It's all good in this neighborhood. I know the guys sometimes on the Rivals show forget sometimes. They think like the guy that maybe like has been overweight most of his life and not doing good, and then he went away, come back with a chiseled chest and 6-pack, and people think that's how he was born. It was all good. They didn't see him running in the rain. You know what I mean? Just not eating for days and that. That was us. So
broccoli, like, you get me?
That living that. Dry ramen noodles, tuna. Do you know what I mean? All of that stuff. So government water, but they don't know. So you're amongst friends here. So I'm going to just lay out a little bit of a table, a little bit of a framework, not just for Tottenham. Get your views on it, and also, because I think it might give us an idea as to some of the players that you talked about, but also like, kind of where Spurs might be at. So Spurs obviously finished 17th. They won the Europa. You played obviously 38 games. You won 11. You drew 5. You lost 22 games. And then crazily with a -1 goal difference. So you probably got the best goal difference getting up to 12th and 11th. And after you won the Europa, it was just L's, because you guys were still having fun. But that's not where we want to end it just there. Before I get into the other stuff, in terms of, like, I was just going through the stats and stuff. I mean, what's your kind of initial kind of thoughts on the table? And like, I can't say to you, did you expect this to happen this season? No one can expect that, especially from a Spurs point of view. But I remember speaking to you early in the season, and I remember you being really sober-minded compared to a lot of Spurs fans about where you thought you was going to end up being. But like, no one would have ever thought that it would have been this. I don't know what your kind of thoughts are.
So I mean, we were going back and forth in the community, and I always said that, I'm happy to be around the 10th and 11th mark, and got slated for it.
Yes, you did.
People were saying my standards are like in the trash. My thinking was, if we stay around that point with the injuries, etc., then we're in a chance for when those players do come back, we could be close to Europe. Europe was really tight because you were fighting with teams like Brentford. Brentford were on a run around that time. Bournemouth as well, as you all know. Areola was doing really well. And the team that was surprising everyone was Nottingham Forest. Newcastle, Villa were trying to get back way. So it was quite crammed around that part. And it was like, I think 5 points to 3 points split between, I think like 11th or 12th and like maybe 5th. It was something stupid for points at that time. I remember when I was saying. And then the problem for me and my concerns was that we had a lot of injuries in the first season. So in the second season, I wasn't expecting as many injuries because I assumed with all the new tactical work, the actual fitness load in terms of like muscles breaking down, that in the second season they were
Yes.
used to it. They'd be
Yeah.
more conditioned. And then actually I was like, wow, if this is happening again, then this can't be a coincidence. So then red flags started flying in my head. And I think that's when I started to research into Bielsa a bit, because I know with Leeds, he was a coach where he revolutionized the game. I was a big fan of Pochettino, and he was a student of Bielsa. So were quite a few managers, if I'm not mistaken, was come from school Bielsa. So anyway, long story short, when I did research the trainer methods and the style, I remember when Leeds got relegated and they were criticizing them, saying, it's the intensity that's killing the players. And that's why he has so many injuries. And then I looked at Ange and I was like, damn, maybe these people might have a point. Anyway, I kept it to myself and I still kept the faith, because obviously you're a fan, right? So I'm going to keep on with the project. And then I think when we started losing games heavily and it was back-to-back games, I was like, irrespective of where we are on the table, I still expect a certain performance. Do you know what I mean? And it was the way we conceded goals. It was the same tactical problems, which was alarming to me. And then I think the one that really hurt me, which shouldn't really hurt me in hindsight, when looking back on it, I don't know why it shook me up so bad then, but it was our last game for, you have to play every team at least once.
Yes. Yeah.
Basically, Liverpool, that was the team that we hadn't played yet. Do you know what I mean? And I was trying to judge Spurs against what I thought was my, the top six.
Yes.
Associate Spurs with a big six club, right? So I said, right, depending on how we play against Arsenal, how we play against Chelsea, that would tell me what level the team is at, the squad is at, and the manager is at. Do you understand? And we were at home to Liverpool. And I remember I had a few friends, and the way they ripped us a new one, irrespective of what players were in what position, I just said, wow, lads, if you're in the stadium, leave now. Get out, bro. What are you still there for? Get out. I was really concerned. I was like, this is embarrassing. And I had to watch that. And when you can see it, like the problems, and you can see the blatant flaws in your face, and the manager's not doing anything, because if you have a certain play style and you don't have the players for that play style, then you surely, in my mind, the logical thing is to maybe, tweak here and there, maybe change things here and here, just to negate some of those issues. For example, we've got a player called Dragushin and we've got a player called Archie Gray. Dragushin, for me, he doesn't cover wide spaces really well, meaning that, you get what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
So
I've seen that.
Asking him, and he's not the most mobile of characters.
No.
In terms of like lateral movement, when I say lateral movement, like able to turn your
He's
hip,
Maguire.
that's what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
So when you've got a player and you're playing in the back two, and he came from a club that was in the back three, and this as a manager, you're seeing these guys in and out each and every day. I'm just a fan, by the way. I'm not a coach, but you're asking him to be aggressive and press high up the pitch, and he can't cover ground too well. All it takes is one pass, a little bounce pass. I call it the wall pass. And that's how you play around these players. And all of a sudden, the space is in behind where he's left. And you're leaving a young guy called Archie Gray by himself in the high line as well, in his first season in the Premier League. And I just said, why wouldn't you change tactically to kind of like say, look, we haven't got our first centre backs, our first teams here. Why play in a two? And in a two centre backs, the fullbacks, they are also asked to jump and press and win the ball high up. So when they don't win their tackle, win their challenge, all the space is in behind on the flanks, and it leaves the last two defenders exposed in a high line. And also, you've got a defensive
Happened to us. Happened in our game.
Right. Exactly. So right?
Straight through the middle.
Straight through the middle. And you've got a defensive midfielder that you're telling them wherever the ball lands, whatever side that is, I need you to go to that side. There. And then that leaves a massive hole
gap in the middle.
And that's what happened in that Liverpool game. Time and time again, like Trent had time and space because what's his name? Spence wasn't able to shut him down. And by the end of it, it was like 5-1 at the time. I remember the game finished 6-3, but by then my mind was made up. I said, yeah, this is like, this to me is obvious. Like, he could have avoided all of this, and negated a lot of these problems. But he was so steadfast on his philosophy and his ideas and his approach. And for me, you can have your philosophy, but you can tweak it. So instead of making the fullbacks jump, why not make the nearest midfielder press?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Why not make one of the nearest left midfield, one of the left eights press and leave that fullback alongside Archie Gray and alongside Dragusin and say, look, guys, instead of jumping, you three just sit back and then maybe have at least one of the defensive midfielders hold the middle. Don't get him to follow the ball. Do you know what I mean? And I kick ball in it. So like, if I'm playing centre back and a brother's in front of me, I'm talking to him. I'm like, bro, don't follow the ball. Stay here in the middle. Like, if I got the DM in front of me, stay here. I need you to protect me. Do you understand? So I'm talking to him. But like, Ange is there and he's not saying any instructions, and this is happening and we're getting punched up. And I'm getting embarrassed because obviously I know Liverpool fans outside of the fans we know. And I'm like, bro, come on, man. What's going on here? So for me, that's when I was like,
your mind was made up.
Like, this ain't good. This ain't good. Because even when the players come back, because I remember the first season, everyone was like, we went through a period like this where we were losing games, and everyone was like, oh, but it's the injuries, isn't it? It's the injuries. And this was after the 10 games, isn't it? The first 10 games. Remember when Chelsea, we had that historic high line, and they're all on the sideline, on the halfway line, like that, about to sprint. Remember, yeah? And he's like, so we are, mate. So we're going to be. Once I'm here, we're going to play. Yeah? So basically what happened was when the injuries happened, everyone was like, when we get our first, our centre-backs back, watch us fly at the table. Our centre-backs came back, our full-backs came back, our goalkeeper came back, and the same thing happened. So that was the red flag in the first season. Because the first season, we were top 4 for the longest, and then we lost those games. I think it was like 6 games in a row we lost.
Mm-hmm.
And we came out and we finished 5th. So we essentially bottled top 4, innit? Because back then, the top 5 didn't get you Champions League.
Yeah.
But it was a blessing, innit? In disguise. So it worked out because Ange was having a go over all of us fans saying, oh, I don't want to be at a club where they want Arsenal to win. Well, I mean, Man City to win the game, because
if
won the game, then Arsenal would win the league.
I remember that.
Like, but it was all part of the plan anyway. All the violent intervention, Son missing that, hitting the player, looking left, right. I don't know.
Well, speaking of part of the plan, folks, I just remember when you was talking, actually, folks, do remember to like, share, and subscribe. Always got a few people in the chat here. I'll get a few of the chats in and go through, set the framework for Tottenham. A lot of stuff that you've already touched on really helpfully, Ash, as well. So, but it will be good for folks to kind of well, maybe some folks don't want to remember, but to review some of the stuff that's happened with Tottenham and get your take on the style of play that you already kind of talked about as well. But Loudmouth Football, first time seeing you on the channel. God bless you, sir. Good to have you on. There's a few people that I haven't seen before, so Ash is bringing his stardom is bringing people here. Daniel Levy's a dictator. Ange has done a poor with the league, no doubt, but he got them a shot at Champions League next season. we've got to take into account how injuries did play a major role. And I will talk about, Ash talked about it. I've got a little bit of stats there that might be of interest to Ash as well. And we'll touch on that a little bit more. Where's the depth? You can't expect, we're going to talk about depth as well. You can't expect Matis Bergvall to rock the floor with so many unfit players. Major revamp ASAP. In the hype, Dragusin was a poor signing. He came from a low block sign. Wobojog, I don't know if you know Ash, but he's an Arsenal fan as well, so it might be why he might be getting a bit of stick. But big up Wobojog, good to see you. To my Mbeumo here. We'll get back to the Mbeumo talks. I don't know if people want to talk about him as well, but just finally. Hi, plus on the player. I think you guys talking amongst yourselves. Adrian Pigott, good to see you, sir. God bless you. Aaron Kane, as an opposition fan looking in, I think Ange fails to play to the squad's strengths. Older, slower defenders. Why persist with the high line? Sometimes you have to play to the player's strengths. I think that's something that you agree with, isn't it? So we talked a little bit of the league table. Got your kind of take on some of the style of play. We're going to go even further in depth with that and going to get your take on some of the stuff. I've got kind of merged FB Ref, used a little bit of AI to get a little bit more on Spurs' style of play to see if some of the stuff, what your take is on it as well. So just from FB Ref stuff. So this is from the season and strictly on the league stuff. So you might not recognize it. We didn't do this in Europe. It's just strictly on the league stuff. High possession and build-up play. Tottenham averages 67.4 possession stats that's incredible. With a focus on short passes, 79.1% short pass completion. They attempt over 6,000 passes. Wow.
That's how
with 500, with 528 per 90 minutes passing stats, indicating a preference for controlled patient build-up. Attacking through the wings, they create 23.8 shots. These are incredible stats. For shot creating actions per 90, goal creating actions with 3.58 from crosses, pass types, stats. So these are the pass type stats. This suggests reliance on wing play and wide deliveries. I'll get your take on that as well. And pressing and high defensive line, which someone spoke, I think was it Aaron, spoke about it. They commit 22.4 tackles per 90 with 10.6 in the attacking third. Defensive actions, so showing an aggressive pressing style. Their 193.93 passes allowed per defensive actions. So I'm guessing that means when you're closing down, you kind of get the ball, it bounces off, someone collects it, type of thing. You're kind of winning the ball from other people's in the opposition halves. Indicate a high indicates a high defensive line to regain possession quickly. Just from the outside looking in, Ash, that's some really good stats. But what's your take on all of this as you're kind of hearing it? And like, can
you still hear me? By the way,
yeah. Can you hear me? Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
I was just asking, what's your take on this? Is it tragic? Is it tragic in the sense of like these are really impeccable stats in one half, but we know obviously what's happening this season. What's your take on all of it?
So basically the play style and the actual players are two different things. The profile of the players don't quite match up to because the idea of it is basically, and I love the idea, and this is why I was a fan of Ange at the start, it's basically what we saw with Barcelona, what we see with PSG. In terms of players, he likes rotations. So there's no set positions, for example. What we do is we squeeze the pitch, we make it ultra small, we play near their goal mouth. And the reason why we have, only two centre backs as rest defense, and then we have one in front, is because we commit so many bodies forward. We normally build up on the left-hand side. And what you'll see is the left back will rotate with the left-sided 8, the left-sided midfielder, and they will rotate with the wide forward, and that makes it harder for teams to go man to man for Spurs. The problem is some of those players, they lose some of their quality when they're in certain positions. For example, if you've got Son out wide on the left, he's not as effective when he needs to be in the build-up. So when you're building up in the build-up phase, Son in possession, he's not technically that good, or he's not physically strong enough to hold on to the ball where you could fireball into it. You could fireball into him. He holds it up like an Mbeumo, and then or Kulusevski. Kulusevski's quite good at that. So where you can, shield use his body, shield it, and do quick little layoffs and quick little 1-2s to kind of interchange. So that was the first part, which was a bit of a problem. The actual build-up play and the profiles of players we have. Maddison was clever because Maddison, he's able to turn with the ball. So if he gets the ball, he's able to turn and he's able to pass in between the lines. So something that Son's not too bad at. Son's passing range is quite decent and quite underrated, but actually he can do travellas when he passes the ball outside of his foot with a sweep. He can do through balls with the inside of his boot and find a player. He's done it numerous times this season. But as I said, some of the profiles we had for the system on the right-hand side especially never really worked. When you've got Brennan Johnson, again, another quite light-weighted forward who's not quite a winger. When we talk about wingers, you expect your wingers to beat their man on the outside. And Brennan Johnson couldn't beat his man on the outside or on the inside. At least with Son, he wasn't as effective as he used to be at beating his man on the outside. But at least with Son, when he was near the box, he could probably come on the inside, beat his man and get a shot off. However, he wasn't doing that this season. He wasn't doing what he used to do, where he used to get the ball on the outside of the box, whip it top corner, or get his shot off. And we didn't have the same space to run in behind because he's a striker that likes to run in behind, kind of, the big man, little man. That space wasn't afforded to us because we were too possession heavy dominated. Do you know what I mean? So when you're so high up the pitch and you've got all that possession, teams will sit in a low block, and Spurs had a problem in breaking teams down. And another reason why it was quite tough for Spurs is because we typically don't cross balls into the box. Yeah. What we would do is get to the byline and try to cut it back. So because Johnson, he wasn't really good at firing crosses into the box, that left Son, not Son. That left striker, I forgot his name, it's gone out of my head. Solanke didn't have enough service in terms of wingers going out wide and whipping balls into the box. So he didn't score as many goals. Also, he wasn't always in the striker position because in the system, we ask Solanke almost to play like a number 10. He drops in, looks after the ball, and then he feeds it to someone else, like where he should be in a number 9 position, getting on the end of things. You're seeing Brennan Johnson on the back post. He's taking those goals. He's scoring those type of goals. So those goals were all taken away from Solanke because he was too involved in, the pressing, winning that ball high up, and generally trying to occupy centre backs, pulling them out of position. Do you know what I mean? But the problem is with Solanke, when he's trying to look after the ball and
your sound's a bit in and out. Your sound's a bit in and out, but I can hear you now.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. So Solanke's link play wasn't consistent throughout the season. So sometimes the attack would break down when he's trying to do his link play. Again, as I said before, with the wingers and the fullbacks like to tuck in a lot of the times, and they would occupy the pockets where you expect your number 10s to be. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So that's where
you create overload through the center.
So for example, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah. I was just saying that you could create overload through the center.
Yeah, so basically the thing is the profile player we had in like Destiny the Doggy in that kind of pocket in that inside channel or the edge of the box, he's not a type of player that can, hurt you through like passing. He's more of a player that would work better on the overlap, get to the byline and cut the ball back. Does that make sense? Yeah. So when you've got a player that you should have like a Maddison in that pocket, that's where the number 10s normally live.
Yes.
And they're able to find the striker, or they're able to find the box threat, a midfielder making a late run in. But because you've got
and they're just crowding each other out.
They're crowding each other out. They're not in the right position. And then you've got Maddison, he's too far back. Do you know what I mean? Trying to create from deep. So that's what I mean by a mixed match of profiles, a mixed match of different players in different positions, doing that rotation. You know how what's it called? PSG did it so well when you also saw Hakimi in those inside positions, and he became a striker at times. That's what you would see with the doggy, and it wouldn't suit, it wouldn't work. Or you'd have Maddison playing left back role, which you saw maybe like a Vitina, if that makes sense. So for those things there, it didn't quite work because the midfielders in front of Maddison were either Bentancur and Mbeumo, and they're not comfortable in receiving the ball on the turn. So that's where the technical flaw of the team started to fall down, and we weren't able to affect the game in the same way like a PSG could. But just pretty straightforward. The front three, they don't have the finishing. They didn't have the finishing throughout the season. Johnson, if he scored a goal, that was it. You didn't get anything else from him. No other output. Son, again, when he's in the final third, you kind of go missing because he didn't have the upper body strength to blast past players, to beat them 1v1, and he lost his legs as well. Finishing wise, his finishing hasn't been as prolific as seasons gone by. And then Solanke, again, he's been hit with injuries, so he's been in and out of the season. But again, he's not a clinical striker. So he might need 4 chances and he will score 1 or 2 out of 4 chances. Does that make sense? So then you've got the front 3 that aren't killers. Then you've got your midfield 3 that not all of them are comfortable to receive the ball under pressure and get on a turn in the final third and get on a turn and interchange as well, because that's what he wants them to do. He doesn't see like a player being a DM. He just sees position like you're just a player and you've got a role and you need to fulfill it. Does that make sense? And then when teams finally figured out, oh, this is how you hurt Spurs, he had nothing to negate that. He just said, no, if you score 3 or 4, that was his thinking. Does that make sense? But because he never had the killers to do that, it kind of, that's why we kept losing 2-1s or 1-0s, because we were impotent up top. And the back two, like I said before, they had no protection. And that's why it looks so good, because they're saying like, short passes, possession stats are up, shots, shot creation actions, It means nothing. It means absolutely nothing when you don't score. When you can't score, you can't put it in the back of the net. Do you know what I mean? And so that's what it comes down to. If Spurs had like a Liverpool front line, do you know what I'm saying? Or a Man City front line, or even, dare I say it, a Newcastle.
I was going to say, it's a bit different.
It'll be a different story. If we had a Gordon and an Isak, we're having a different conversation. But still, at least your manager has a way where, in the league, at least he was able to switch it and say, "Look,
he's
against the team. We're going to adapt, and we're going to go to a back 5, or we're going to even defend with 6 at times." Do you know what I mean? And Ange never had that.
Honestly, well spotted. That's exactly how it's. I said earlier a couple of weeks ago that we took a more pragmatic approach, and I also watched a show from Adam Cleary. I don't know if you know, he did a 4-4-2. He was part of 4-4-2 before, but now he's got his own kind of show. He's wicked, and he did one on Newcastle. And the way we've adapted this season, exactly what you said. It was just so practical, Eddie Howe said, we're going to defend in numbers. So, the extreme point was when we did the 5-5-0 against Arsenal away, but we literally were defending in numbers. And when we press and we attack, we press and the attack in numbers, but we do it when we choose to do it during the game. It reduced our injuries, and we just became a lot more efficient in what we needed to do. And like, But you have to do that if you don't have every player, you know. And that's exactly what you said. There's a lot of stuff that you touched on here. Because the next slide is on kind of strengths and weaknesses, and so much stuff that you pinpointed on. So then this is again from the FBref, from the guys that have just come to the show. So please do remember to like, share, and subscribe. These stats are from the FBref, and I kind of asked AI to kind of help me to put some of this stuff together around Spurs strengths and weaknesses. And really didn't need it because Ashe is already kind of he is AI. He's Tottenham's AI. So strengths, weaknesses so your strengths, chance creation. Tottenham generate 1.87, so nearly 2 expected goals per 90, which is not bad at all. With players like Pedro Porro, Dejan Kulusevski, who you mentioned, contributing significantly. So down that right hand side, passing accuracy, we talked about it, and you have an 88%. Pass completion rate, passing stats of players like Rodrigo Bentancur on 92.1% and Mickey van der Ven on 92.6%, excelling in maintaining possession. Set piece threat, which is interesting, they score 0.21 goals per 90. I say it's interesting because I don't hear enough about Spurs' set piece threat. From set pieces, shooting stats with players like Heung-min Son, we mentioned that at 0.31 G90, but it could be a bit better. Effective in these situations. Finishing, weaknesses, and this is what Ashe said exactly. Despite your 1.7 expected goals, you only score 1.61 per 90, underperforming by 0.26. So that's, you've essentially given yourself like, you've reduced your chances of scoring by 26%. For I'm going to assume, from what I've heard you say, actually, kind of player quality, really. Dominic Solanke has got a 0.41 expected shots versus the 0.441 XG per 90. So, and Brennan Johnson at 0.20 versus 0.43 are notable underperformers. Interesting. Defensive vulnerability. And this is exactly what you're talking about. You concede 1.61 goals per 90 against an expected 1.55. So it sounds like you're helping people along to score. If they're, because this actually you're supposed to concede is 1.55, but you're conceding 1.61. When you walk me through that, so suggesting defensive lapses. Your the goalkeepers, Vicario, struggle with shot stopping. Interesting. Turnovers in dangerous areas. They commit 11.8 turnovers per 90 within your own defensive half. This is scary for me. Leading to count, but it probably goes to your point around player quality and profiles in the defensive third, leading to counter-attacking opportunities for performers. So I'll finish it on this and get your view on all of this. Key reasons behind poor league performance. Tottenham finished 16th for 42 points. We talked about that with a -1 goal difference. I don't know why it's 15. So you got, I think it's a little. I think I finished this a little bit maybe by a game too early. So you got some of this is a little bit out of date, but goals 454, which is way. This is way less. This is you got -1 goal difference anyway. The primary reason for your poor performance is ineffective finishing combined with defensive errors, which is burning the candle at both ends. Scary. They underperformed their XG by 0.26 goals per 90 from your shooting stats. You're missing key chances while the defense concedes more goals than the quality of shots suggests that you should have. And this dual issue of failing to convert opportunities and leaking goals has led to a negative goal difference and inconsistent results. What's your view on all of that?
So, what it is, and I have to be honest.
Do you agree with it, by the way? Do you think that's accurate?
Yeah, I do agree. I do agree with it because I've gone through it myself. And basically, when we're playing our first phase, when we're playing.
Sorry,
out
I just want to say, Josh, thank you. Sorry, go on, Ash. My apologies. Sorry.
So yeah, the first phase of attack is when you're playing out from the back. And you mentioned how we lose a lot of balls in the defensive third, and there's a lot of high turnovers in the defensive third as well. So that will come down to, yes, the players, but how are you setting the players up?
Yeah.
And are you putting them under greater threat than necessary? Because we play a certain style, but we play a certain way for every single game, it's now easy for the opposition to prepare against Spurs because we play this particular style in this particular way. And the way we play out from the back is through short passing, and that comes from the goalkeeper and the two centre backs splitting each side.
Mm-hmm.
And Ange he's adamant that he wants his goalkeeper to play out. He doesn't want to go long because he thinks he will lose control if you go long. So he will do short passes from out the back. And then what happens is when you have teams know this, so what they do is they press the goalkeeper extremely hard and they try to force the error from the goalkeeper. And what happens? The ball goes out to the fullback, and that's when the press happens. The press is more aggressive when it goes out to the fullback, and it goes into that middle third. As soon as it goes into that middle third, that's when the teams jump, they nick the ball. And it happened against us violently against Bournemouth. I remember Bournemouth were trying to play out from the back. And within the first 5 minutes, Evan Nelson almost scored 2 goals, literally because of that. If anyone watches it, they can check it. Bournemouth versus Tottenham. Watch how Spurs play out from the back. We ended up drawing that game, but it's because Bournemouth never took their chances. But it's not the only game where we play short. Every single game, if you check Spurs, that 2/3 of the season, I would say, we were always playing out of the back. And if you check statistically as well, our goalkeeper has made the most short passes out of any goalkeepers in the league. So that would tell you that it's by design and the is persistent. That's how he wants to play. And he wasn't willing to change it at all. And I think that's the reason why we conceded so many goals and we conceded so many chances in that particular area. And I already mentioned to you, when you've got midfielders that can't go on a turn or can't receive the ball under pressure or can't progress the ball forward, because that's a big thing. There's one thing receiving the ball under pressure and then, evading that pressure, but there's another thing playing that ball forward. When that doesn't happen, that's what slows the game down. And then the only time I did hear the manager, say something on the sidelines is play it forward, play it forward, play it forward. But we don't have the profiles that have that risk in them, if that makes sense. We don't have those. They don't have the technical ability and they don't have the personality to take those more riskier passes. And that's when you mentioned the passing stats are really high, like 90% from this player, 90%. The reason why it's so high is because you're playing safe passes. That's why your passes are so accurate. That if you want players to play it more riskier balls, you'll see some of the percentages go down because they're playing more medium to long passes. They're trying to break lines. They're being, more adventurous. And that's what you're seeing in the analysis that you've got there, in the data there.
Wow. There's something that someone like it's the ongoing theme that is, and it goes back to what you've really kind of talked about is we can see this. Ange sees this, and he would have already known this, but he's persisted with it. This is so. The next
Sorry
part
to cut you.
Yeah. Go on, Ash. Can you hear me?
No, I was going to say it's similar to. Yeah, I can hear you. It's similar to what you're seeing with Amorim, if that makes sense. Where Amorim's wedded to his philosophy, and he doesn't quite have the players to do it, and as a result, they suffered in the league for it. Now, obviously, Amorim's going to have a summer where he's able to get the players in. He feels that can progress Manchester United to the level where he thinks they should be. The difference is now with Postecoglou, he had those summer. He had He had 2 summers, so he had a chance to address that window, those areas in the summer just gone. Do you know what I mean? He had a chance to bring in a midfielder that he wanted. He identified a lot of players that he really wanted. He really wanted Solanke. Johnson was really a big part of what he wanted, and so people are asking him, are you happy with with the transfers you got, the players you have? Archie Gray was another one, and Bergval, who I really like. But he was adamant that he was happy, and we got rid of a lot of senior players. And as I said before, they're not really going to be the profile of player that he wants for his style, e.g. Oliver Skip and Højbjerg. They're not players that are going to risk it, get on a half turn, but they're senior players, and replace senior players with two players that had never played in the league and hadn't had that seniority where they played at a level where they could, take us to the next level or take him to the level where he needs to be. And so I just think the attacking phase was probably what he was focusing on, but the defensive side of things, I honestly think he doesn't take that into account when we're talking about the league, because we're talking about the league here.
It's going to be... someone's got to give, isn't it? Someone's got to give. I'll go to the chats. Got a few questions here. Got a few folks here. Got tons, actually. So apologies, guys, if I haven't touched everyone's conversations just yet. I think we're talking about Sophie B. Oh, no, sorry. Is it Sophie? Is it in a hype? Sorry, in a hype. It means we lost goals from almost... I think you guys are talking about the... talking about Eddie Howe adjusting it to 5-5-0 and stuff like that, and Robojog is saying that you better not do that again, type of thing. Sophie B, Bournemouth are a very good pressing team. They battered us at home 4-1. They did. They battered us at their stadium as well, to be honest. We were quite fortunate to get away with a 1-1 draw that time. Sophie B, you're talking to Robojog there. Sophie B, Eddie Howe's formation changes constantly. It does. 5-4-1 to a 4-3-3 to a 3-4-2-1 in different phases. Sometimes you can get probably all three formations in the same game sometimes with him, to be honest.
Goes back to Thomas Frank. It goes back to Thomas Frank.
It goes back to Thomas Frank. It goes back to exactly it. Wobojog sometimes stops Salah. And my kind of theory is just to saying that, sometimes I feel like when managers go through the lower tiers and have to go through the ups and downs in league form and have to adapt it on and off the pitch, they're more prepared to do that to those, in my opinion, who not necessarily born with a silver spoon, but haven't really had... How much change does Amram have to do when he's playing in Portugal? How much change has maybe, Ange, even despite he's had a long career. But anyway, Jam Stasher, the most underrated Toon YouTube channel right here. Thank you so much, Jam Stasher. Appreciate you for that. God bless you, sir. Sophie's talking to Obojog. Huzzah, good to see you, sir. Sorry I'm late, people. Was on the other channel. No problem, sir. It's great to have you here with us. And Obojog, you guys are talking. It was for the neutrals for sure. I'd hate to be involved in a game like that. Okay, I think that was you guys. Well, are you Arsenal fans still sore about those wins? Goodness gracious me! By any means necessary. Like I always say, don't take it as a loss. Take it as a lesson. Right. So, the other thing I wanted to know is to add to that, because I was looking at, and it's great that you explained all that to me, because I had two things in my mind about Spurs injuries and squad depth as I was kind of reading through this. So for my own thought process, and just to let you know, actually, when I went through this, you're seeing 1,000 minutes. That's like my reference point. So here are the Tottenham players this is obviously this season who played more than 1,000 minutes. So for me, I thought this is just my own kind of arbitrary thing, where I think if you're playing 1,000 minutes or more for your team, and it's different stages, obviously, you're kind of very much involved in the team. 1,000 minutes covers about 10 games, right? Or you come in as a regular rotational player. You've been involved in the game, put it that way. So I've included those players. So if you're thinking, why is this player missing? Why is that player missing?
No, looks right to me.
That was
perfectly fine to me.
Yeah. So interestingly, and I don't know how much this might come down to. I think maybe a couple of these come down to injury. So you got of all the players, you've got 13 players who exceeded 1,000 minutes this playtime during the season. We had 15.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that wasn't great. 13 players.
Mm-hmm.
And so based on the stats, and I did have it a little bit like so you've got obviously goalkeepers, Vicario, and that played. That's a bit more lengthier, but kind of in the broader term, you've got a total of players that were 21 players that were injured.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, let me get back to this. There's something I wanted to see in that. So goalkeepers, you've got a low depth of rotation there. You're relying on mainly one keeper being Vicario, who I think was also injured during the season. Obviously, you got Book Kuklinski halfway through the season as well. Defenders, you've got from this, and again, when I say high depth rotation, this is just based on the minutes. So if someone says, yeah, but this person isn't quality, that person isn't quality, fair enough. I'm kind of just looking at the amount of minutes they played as an indicator of them being kind of relatively key. So you've got 6 players, obviously Pedro, Jed, Spence, Destiny, Davies, Dragoshin, Van der Ven, who've all played. So you've had even with the injuries, had fairly good rotation at least of those players. Whether they're good players or not, that's that. I know you detailed some of the stuff. Dragoshin one-on-ones, better in the centre midfield, and he played 1,200 minutes this season anyway, because I know he had some serious injuries. Davis as well, getting old, played 1,300 minutes. But I think your most used player, the highest minutes, you've got maybe Pedro Porro, which is crazy. So yes, you've got 6 players who played 1,000. I'm just looking at it now. Actually, you played 1,000 more. You haven't got many that the minutes aren't that big, if that makes sense, over the time. Midfielders, moderate rotation. So you've got five players in your midfield. I don't know if that's correct, but Dejan, James, Madison, Rodrigo, Archie Gray. Right, Archie Gray
could be a defender.
He played in defense. Yeah, he plays in defense, even though he's meant to be DM. Right.
Yeah, that's correct.
And Basuma.
Although the last 3 to 4 games he played in the he did play in that midfield role, but they did play him as a DM. But he predominantly played as either he started out as a left back, went to a right back at one point, played as a left-sided centre back, went to a right-sided centre back. So he's played across the whole back line, apart from him in goal. But like as I said, the last 2 to 3 games, he did get his chance to play in the defensive midfielder role. And it didn't look good, I'll be honest with you. But carry on.
That's some good.
Archie Gray will tell you that as well. I'm not being biased.
He had to refamiliarize himself. I'm going to put it down to that. He had to refamiliarize himself playing midfield.
We could say that.
Forwards, you've got a low depth rotation based on the minutes played. Again, Brennan Johnson obviously played 2,000 minutes. Some people will be upset by that, but Human Son 2,000 minutes. Limited options. So you're telling me Solanke? Where did I got? Have I got Solanke back in? How many minutes does Solanke play? Did he even play this season? Where is he?
Yeah, Solanke did play. I think you forgot to include him.
So he would be in there. He would be in there.
He did get injured, but yeah, he would be in there as like.
Would he have played 1,000 minutes though?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I think he missed something like 5 to 8 games. I'd say
5 to 8 games. I lost my traction there.
But I mean, just to round up, I would say Kulusevski was, I think, Ange's go-to, like in terms of the midfield, and so much so that people thought, and I was one of them, he got run into the ground. And it was an issue as well at some point in the season where Maddison was hooked a lot of the time, and people thought that it was because he was trying to protect him, save him, because in the first season he got injured a lot and he had that injury history with Leicester. So a lot of people were like, okay, maybe that's why he's getting taken off. But also, I think when he was taking off Maddison, he may have thought he needs more legs in the midfield. He needs more defensive cover, someone that could cover a lot of ground and win the ball back for us, and then, travel with it back up. And that's why he was often the one got hooked a lot of the time. But a lot of fans felt that when we needed something extra, when we needed a bit of creativity, someone that was going to risk it, he's the only player that we have on our team that can find that pass in between the lines, that can break lines for his passing. And he's the one that always wants it. He's always looking for the ball. And so a lot of fans got frustrated with it. And Kulusevski was always the one that was preferred over Maddison, so much so that, yeah, if he wasn't playing in the middle, they would play him on the right. And if he wasn't playing on the right, he'd play in the middle. And then he ended up getting injured because he was playing in the red zone. Sorry, go on.
Is it possible that Solanke, because this is stats mainly, this is all for the league, so I don't know what the degree of injury, we're going to find out actually, for Solanke had, but is it possible that he may have played less than 1,000 minutes in the league and more minutes?
No, in the comments, he's saying that he played over 2,000 minutes.
Oh, very good. Who was that? Who gave that to us?
In a hype.
In a hype, big up in a hype. Thank you, sir. Okay, so you got 14 players that exceeded 1,000 minutes. Okay, that's good. Yeah. Well, not good, but it's thank you for like updating that essentially.
Yeah,
but
close to what you were saying with the Newcastle team, like 15.
Yes, exactly. And so what I try to figure out when I put this together, the next stuff for the injuries is that how many, who was missed the most, but also I wanted to interestingly get there was a minute where I wanted to get, here we go. I'm going to get to that in a moment, where you had the greatest cluster of injuries at most. But some of your most missed players, Mickey van der Ven, 14 matches missed, which is incredible. Christian Romero has got 11 matches missed. A couple of other notable mentions of 5 and 7 matches. 7 missed was Sarr. And then there's a whole lot of 5s around your forwards, Minson, Werner, who I saw celebrating the Europa Cup. I thought that was a bit shameless. Brendan Johnson, Olderberg, Maddison, we talked about Kulusevski, we talked about him, Basuma, Benteke. And you've got, and I've put it next to it, like you said, most losses by 1 goal. And the greatest clutch of injuries you had injury clusters between week 12 to 14, from November 23rd to December 3rd to 2024, where you had to think about 11 players out. And again, you had 11 players out from weeks 29 to 30, where you had, again, 11 players out. That's incredible.
Yeah. And so this is the where people were debating, because it's like, we always knew, Ange had a big injury history record wherever he went. In Celtic, he had the same thing. In Japan, he had the same thing. And now in the Premier League, he had so we learned that in the first season. So we were always thinking, how will he manage when he's got 2 games a week, meaning when he plays in Europe? Because the first season, he was having injuries already. So when you're playing in an extra competition, how are you going to manage those injuries? How are you going to manage the squad to compete on all fronts? And so that was the biggest thing we were looking at. And then obviously, as you're showing here, it got to November, December, where we had our heaviest amount of injuries, most amount of injuries. And we lost to the likes of Fulham. Fulham was a beat.
Manchester United, Ipswich Town.
Ipswich was we know about Ipswich.
Crazy.
That got relegated. So these things were like very damning in the fan base, because people really turned against him when we lost against Ipswich. A lot of fans were like, "No, I've had enough." That was February. So remember, I was gone by December, which is quite early. But it was the last game. The last game in December was like Liverpool. It was the last team we had to play.
Yes.
Or like that Christmas period. When the Christmas period gets crazy. So I was like, that was me. But for a lot of other people, they hang on to January. They saw the losses and they held on to February. And then February was the last straw. Some people were before that, because before Ipswich, we played. Was it before or after? I think it was one game after we played Everton. And with Everton, it was ironic because that was the first time Ange tried to adapt by changing the formation. And he actually went to a back three. And he went to a back three and we got slapped up by Everton. I think it was I think we conceded 2 goals in the first half or 3 goals in the first half. And he got scared and he changed back to the 4 at half time. He just completely said, no, I'll go back. And then he never ever went back to a back three after that. Because he was like, see, I was right. My way was right. Do you know what I mean? But instead of like holding out and saying, I want to stick with his back three, he just completely lost it. And we didn't see the back three until we went into Europa against like maybe a Frankfurt, I think it was. Mm-hmm. And that's when he brought a player on to make a back three to see out the game in the last 10 minutes. And then you know what happened next. After that, he kept kind of like doing the low block and, and that's how we got the win, But yeah, let's keep talking about this.
There's interesting. There's a bit of a thing where some folks are suggesting Archie Gray should get a chance. I know Sophie B is talking about it. I think he should get a chance. But some Aaron Kane also Spurs have to find a way of playing Archie Gray in the 6. He's wasted, in my opinion, as a CB or a right back. I tend to agree with that, Ash. Just because of this, yeah.
I don't know, definitely. I don't know about this whole 6 thing. I'm against it, if I'm being totally honest. I think it should be a 4-2 rather than a 4-1 or a 2-1 rather than a 2-2.
So two screening the back 4.
Yeah. I don't think Archie Gray by himself.
No. Yeah.
No, not yet. No, I can't see it. He can receive, I've seen him receive the ball in the Championship under pressure. So getting that ball back to goal, kind of back to the defender, ball goes into him, or back to the attacker, and then receive that ball, get his first touch under, and then turn into space where he beats that first line of pressure, and then he's able to play a forward pass. He hasn't yet done that in a Spurs shirt, and that's the reason why I'm like, he needs someone next to him before I give him that responsibility. And he does scan. I'm not going to say he doesn't scan, like he scans, but his first thought would be rather to take a touch and play it back from where it came from or play it sideways, which I've got nothing against. But after that, it's the decision making. He still needs to improve in terms of when to risk it, when to carry it, when to play that ball forward, because he has lost the ball in those defensive areas a lot of times when I did see him in the 6. And yeah, he doesn't impose himself enough in the game to be like a number 6, if that makes sense. You need to have a lot, not just physicality, but you need to have that kind of aura, that energy, that confidence to want that ball in that dangerous area.
Yeah, and then Bergvall.
Like Bergvall. like Bergvall. Bergvall, though, I think what he needs to improve on, because Bergvall, for me, he's good at, when he's in the wider areas, he's good at receiving the ball and then turning. But Bergvall, right in the middle, in the heart of the pitch, under pressure. I've seen him when there's no pressure and he's able to turn. Of course, anyone could do it. When you're in the middle of the pitch, you can turn. But when he's in the middle and you're asking him to do it, I've seen him crumble. Do you know what I mean? When he's in wide, tight areas, he's able to quick feet turn, boom, a lot of energy, runs up and down, can switch the play as well. Got long ball, got a good range of passing on him. But it's just that little thing I'm seeing in him. I'm like, I just need that, and that will come. It will come. I'm no doubt. I've got more confidence that he could be more of a 6 than Gray is at the moment. The development levels are still, but he's played a lot more minutes and had a lot more game time and had a lot more time to make mistakes in that position than what Archie Gray has had. But yeah, physicality, I think he's got a lot more bite about him, but a lot more aggression as well in the tackle than what Archie Gray has.
Interesting. So I want us to, we've gone through Tottenham's squad, their style of play, the injuries, what went wrong, what some of the things that did go right, and got some real in-depth analysis from you, Ash, as well. Now, I know you sent me through some of the guys that Newcastle, that Tottenham are looking for in the transfer window for their squad, and
Before you
hopefully,
do that,
yes, sir, yes, sir.
these are players that I like. These aren't Spurs targets necessarily.
Okay,
We have
okay,
been linked with one or two of them, but just before you go any further, I will tell you that Spurs are looking to sign Danso because we had got him on loan, so that will be one of our first signings that we do, and we're also heavily negotiating the fee of Matthias Tell from Bayern Munich. We're trying to bring that down. They quoted us 50 million. We're trying to bring it down to 30 million. And there is suggestion that we are trying to turn that into another loan with obligation. So those are two signings off the back that we're looking to do straight away. The other links as well, really quickly, is we're linked to Angel or Angel Gomez from
yes,
Lille on the free. He's got other clubs that are currently looking at him. So we're not the only team looking at him. He has already looked at us over West Ham. He's come to Tottenham over West Ham. But there are a few.
Oh, you're skipping out there, Ash. Just to let you know, Ash, you've just skipped out there. So he's looking at Bergval. Not Bergval. He's looking to Tottenham, looking to reduce the. Yeah, I can hear you now, but you're go on. Got you back.
Yeah. So just the last few bits. So yeah, Gomez on the free. Loan deal for Tell and Danso fee pretty much agreed. And then also, who's the other three? There's Sane we've been linked with.
Yeah, Grealish.
But with Sane's more prominent between us and Arsenal, but apparently Arsenal don't want him. But wages could be a stumbling block for Sane because he is on a lot of wages at Bayern Munich currently. And Spurs' highest earner is Heung-min Son at the moment, who has been linked today away from the club to a Saudi club. However, last year when he was linked to Saudi, he said he didn't want to leave. He didn't want to go to a Saudi club. I think he wanted to stay in Europe to prove himself. However, Spurs did not renew his extension. And so I think Spurs they may be looking to sell him and get a fee for him rather than him to, just leave on a free and choose what club he wants. But I mean, I think if Son gets his way, he will dig his heels in. He will try to stay with Spurs and playing in Champions League. That's just my opinion.
Okay. I just looked at, because I remembered, because there's a player that we have in common that you've selected as well.
Right.
Because I've been following him for a while, so I'm really keen to get. I know what I think of him, but I'm really keen to get your view of him as well. And we've talked about him on this show as well. And if it's okay, just because of time, I'll speak about him and possibly one other. And if we can talk about maybe Mbeumo towards the end, just because we've got tons of stuff on Mbeumo, just to get your views on the deal, because I've got certain theories on it, but I wanna. That's what we've got rivals perspective. We want to get some objective perspective here. So the player is, and our viewers on Toon Tactics TV will know him, is Maghnes Akliouche. And obviously that's the gentleman that you mentioned, obviously, that you wanted to talk about. Now, you said that is he the ones that isn't necessarily linked, but is a player that you like?
He's linked, but
he is linked, okay.
But Spurs fans don't know it yet. That's what it is. But he's linked. It's true. It's linked.
Is this no stuff, or is this Ashe?
Langer's a massive data guy, and he identified he wanted Turkey last season, but Levy's got beef with the Lyon owner.
John Textor.
Yeah. He had bad blood.
Beef with that guy.
Yeah, he had bad blood with the deal what we did with Dembele. That didn't end too well. There was a lot of back and forth. And then that came onto this one. So basically our director of football, Langer, identified Turkey last season. And so I think the deal was around 25 mil, similar to what is being quoted for Man City right now. I think Man City are going to pay 35 or a bit more because they want to get him for the Club World Cup, so they're paying extra. But anyway, what happened was their director of football said, he's got a sell-on clause, and Levy's like, no, I don't want that sell-on clause. I want to be able to sell the player for the full price. That's what I want. So that Turkey deal kind of got left on ice. It never happened. And he was seen a bit of a risk as well because of his attitude. But that's a player that I know that the director of football really liked. So anyway, fast forward to this season, he's blown up. All the other clubs been alerted about him. And then now all of a sudden, that deal's done. Anyway, there's another player that Langer likes because he likes a certain style of player. And this guy, he fits the mold for similar, in my opinion, to Cherki. That's why I thought I'd bring it up.
So you feel like he fits the mold of Cherki? Because
Yeah.
I mean,
so the reason why he fits the mold, because that's what you're going to ask, is because Turkey, like a lot of people didn't know his position.
Just to let people know, just to let people know for who aren't aware. Sorry, Ash. Some people will know. So Akliouche is roughly 21, 22 years old. Plays for AS Monaco. I think this is pretty much like his second season, like kind of being very much regularly involved with the Monaco team. I've watched about 8-9 games of his, probably maybe a little bit more this season, both in Ligue 1 as well as in the Champions League, where he scored a few goals and assists there. He has a good international pedigree. I think he played in pretty much every level of the French team. I know he's in the Olympic team. I don't know if he's in the senior team just yet. I can't remember from the top of my head. Very highly thought of. Now, I've seen astounding, really, really good scouting reports on him. And one, I don't know if you know PM Analytics. He wasn't overly joyed about him. I'll get back to you on that one. But I just wanted to provide that brief background on him. So he is one of the main stars for AS Monaco. Obviously, you told the other stuff around playing style and everything else. But yeah, just for the folks who don't know. And I think Sophie B mentioned here in the chat, was it you, Sophie? Who was it that mentioned he was Sophie, that he's even been linked to Newcastle today, which is interesting. So yeah, I mean, take it away, Ash. I mean, what's drawing you to him?
Well, he's a player that, as I was saying before, in terms of if we're to stick with the philosophy and the ideology that we want players to play multiple positions, like a player doesn't have a particular type position. I think that's the way football is going. And if you look at PSG, Luis Enrique, you look at the way they play with their front three and their midfielders. So you've got a player like Doué. We were linked with Doué heavily last season, and we got pipped to PSG. And the reason why we were linked to Doué is because Doué can play in the midfield. He can play, or he can play at the right wing. And when I say in the midfield, he can play attacking mid or he can play centre mid, and he's comfortable to receive the ball from, the defensive third. So when you've got a player that's, comfortable in all those three different phases and can play out wide, you save money technically on positions. So you haven't got to look for a left winger or you haven't got to look for a right winger, because you've got a player that can play right wing, attacking mid or centre mid. That's three positions covered. So effectively, if you get 3 or 4 players that can play multiple roles, then you would have more squad depth, if that makes sense. Similar to what Man City do. Man City would deploy a Foden as an attacking mid, or they can deploy him on the left, or they play them out on the right at times. So you'll often see this type of approach now in football, where managers and coaches, they say, like, this is your role. I want this to be your role. I want you to find the space and attack the space, rather than being fixed in a position where, like we were saying before, you got your 6, your 8, and your 10. Football's evolving from that. And so with this player and this profile, again, when I spoke about Doué, when I spoke about Cherokee, those are the type of players that play multiple positions. We even had another player called Nusa, very similar, can play in multiple positions. So when we come back to this kid here, he can play as a right winger. He can play as an attacking midfielder. He can play in the centre mid role. And you're seeing it. I think that's why Wirtz was so highly sought after for Liverpool, because he can play in the false 9. He can play out wide on the left, and he can play in the 10 or attacking mid. So this is what this profile player is. We got a player from Burnley. Now that Burnley player called Odebert, he's part of the French under-21s, and he's a part of the Olympic team, similar to this kid. But he comes from the PSG academy. So that PSG academy have produced similar players like this, like you're seeing, like your Xavi Simons, like your Barcolas, etc. Players that can do more than one role, different positions. So with this kid, what I've noticed is he is comfortable in the on the turn, receiving the ball under pressure. He can pass in between the lines, which is even more important because that's what I like to see. I like to see a player that can get his head up when on the ball compared to like Brennan Johnson. Brennan Johnson, for me, he relies heavily in doing box breaking, getting into the box, being in the right position in the right time. But outside of that, is he able to take the team up the pitch? Is he able to progress the ball up the pitch with his team? And this player can do that. He's comfortable out wide. He's comfortable in the middle. And at times, I've even seen him play out wide on the left, even though he predominantly features on the right-hand side. So that's what you're getting. And I'm like, if I'm looking for a player to, give Johnson competition, essentially, I want my team to hold on to the ball. I want my team to be able to hold on to possession, not get the ball, pass it backwards and sideways because, they don't have the skill set to be comfortable. They don't have the skill set to drag the team up the pitch. Do you know what I mean? So that's essentially what you're getting with this kid. And his goals haven't been crazy. They haven't been like out of this world, like in terms of, output, like he's got 10 or 11 goals. But equally, I look at the amount of goals he creates, his key passes, his through balls, the way he passes, his vision, his awareness. Those are the type of things you look for when you're. I'm not a scout, but I'm assuming if they're a scout, they're looking for players that can get their head up early, have a little bit of a wow factor. And I've seen he's got skills where he's able to do the little 360 pirouette on the ball. I'm seeing him do little step overs. I'm seeing him do body feints where he drops a shoulder, manipulates his body shape to beat players. And I like players that have more than one skill set or more than one, skill in their toolbox. Some players, they just do a chop back and that's it. Or some players, they just do like a V cut and that's it. Some players, they can do a Cruyff turn. That's it. Some players do steppies. Too predictable. You need to switch up, be able to go on the inside, go on the outside, slow it down, speed it up, put your foot on the ball, roll the ball with your foot over the ball. These little things that you're looking out for if you want your players to offer something different, to break low blocks as well, because that's what you need to do. To break a low block, you need someone that's got something a little bit different, someone that can create an angle and then find a player making that run. Do you know what I mean? And just by pausing on that ball, slowing it down, and then creating that angle will signal to a player, oh, let me make a run into the box or run into this area down the side where I can play. And that's where key passes start to build up. So when I'm doing my, like, looking at FBref and I'm looking at players, or I'm looking at Sofa Score, I'm looking at through balls, pass percentage, short to medium passes, long passes. Like, do you know what I mean? I'm looking for their first touch to receive, how much they receive in the final third. What's their ball carrying percentages like? Are they carrying that? So all these little metrics, I've looked at this player and I'm like, cool, I'll take that.
What I really enjoyed, and exactly what you said when I watched him play, is also so Monaco is a heavily possession-based team, and they're always having to face kind of low blocks, particularly. Sometimes a team will put up a mid block, and if the team, for whatever reason, struggles, for instance, either to get the ball from the defensive third to the midfield, he'll drop back in and he'll get the ball moving. And also, whenever he is in the final third, I take it when I see him is his first thought is, how can I get this ball to the striker? If I can't get to the striker, then I'll drive with it or I'll try to shoot with it, type of thing, which I really like. So my mind, when I look at him, he seems to be always thinking of a way to help the team to progress the ball forward. And he's kind of given the license to kind of be up and down the field. And you're right, I think he can play across the front three, certainly in attacking midfield as well. I don't know if you agree with this. And to be fair, when I read the PM Analytics scouting report, I can't remember if it was from last year. His main concern was, or had a couple, was kind of pertaining to Akliouche's ability to retain the ball, that he doesn't always kind of use his body well to hold the ball well, and that he finds him very kind of one-footed, not even just when he progresses the ball, but also when he's trying to shield the ball. For me personally, I haven't really seen that. Or maybe he's improved during that time. I don't know what your takes are. And I guess adding to that, and probably more significantly, is can you see Akliouche making it in the Premier League?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think the French league has been treated poorly by a lot of people that watch the Premier League, and they kind of dismiss it. And I think PSG winning that league, winning the Champions League, just tells you everything you need to know, right?
Mm-hmm.
The quality is a lot better than people will give it credit for. So I think he could definitely make it in the Premier League. A lot of French players have gone on from that league to come into the Premier League, and they've made the step up. Do you know what I mean? So, like I said before, in terms of output, that's where my concern is, because I need him. If he's going to play in those positions, yeah, I kind of need him to kind of improve in that area. But I've got no doubt that he's got a lot of potential where he can improve in that and he can do better. But in terms of creativity, for what I want from my players out wide or near the box, he definitely provides that. In terms of shielding the ball, I've not seen any issues in terms of him receiving the ball in the attacking third, especially. But yeah, that's just from what I've seen. To be fair, I haven't watched him extensively where I've seen him lose the ball, and I don't have the technology for Y Scout or things like that. I can see that. I can only say
And
again,
there's always room for it. Maybe he's honestly, I kept him being focused on every game, and I'm like, I don't see it too much. So there's always, maybe that's why he's playing more often, because he's improved that part of his game. But he's certainly very, 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 very talented. There's one more. Which one do you want to look at? I forgot the gentleman's name. Is it Buklari or the other gentleman from Sevilla? Which one? Did you want to look at?
I'm trying to remember who I sent you. Hold on.
There's this one.
Yeah, Seville.
And there's this one.
Okay. So quickly on him, just quickly.
Okay. Yeah.
He's linked to Brighton. He's a centre back, left-sided. James Pascali. Brighton, they know what they're doing. But I looked at him last season, and the reason why I looked at him from Pascali's, he's from PSV, if I'm not mistaken. And
yeah.
Basically, what it is, as a centre back, the reason why for me he's so unique is his passing range. His passing range is phenomenal. It's something like I haven't seen from any centre back in over the 5 leagues. I'm being seriously. Like his passing so much would help my team negate if Maddison's missing, if that makes sense. Maddison, for me, other than Romero, is the only person that can pass from deep, do you know what I'm saying, and find players in those positions. So he can switch the play, he can start attacks, he's comfortable. And I was struggling to find players like a Maddison that can ball carry and pass, other than maybe Alejandro Benea, you know what I'm saying? He plays for Villarreal. So he's the only kind of 6 that I like, where you've got Rodrigo who can do all of it. Rodrigo could do all of it, but that's the reason why I like double pivots, where you split the responsibility. One person's more defensive and one person's a little bit more technical. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, this defender, for me, if he was in the back 3 or even in the back 2, I wouldn't be so mad if my midfielder didn't have a line breaker in terms of passing. And that's all I wanted. Right. That's what it was.
Okay. So,
but
how old is he?
27.
Oh, okay. This gentleman. Now, I saw him briefly on FB Ref in terms of closest in terms of stat comparisons, he's right next to what's his name again? By the way, I forgot his name. But he
Agoume, this guy here, Agoume.
yeah.
Yeah.
What's his name?
Agoume.
Agoume.
Yeah.
They've compared him to Mr. Casado.
Yep. And that's why I want him. That's what Spurs are missing. I look at what I do is I look at the competition and I'm like, how can we get closer to the top 4? What are we missing in terms of, because you've got Bissouma, who for me lacks concentration. So he was a player, and this is the reason why he's so inconsistent. And that's what you get with some, I'll be real, black players. Sometimes they're really techie, they're good on the ball, but they're so up and down because their minds can wander, and so tactically they're not always the best, and positionally they're not where they need to be. And with Bissouma, he was sometimes he'll get in the ball and he can turn and then carry. When he turns and carries, that's when that's what I need. That's what I need from a midfielder. But because his confidence has been knocked and battered so much, and he's made so many mistakes, he's no longer receiving the ball under pressure and turning his man. And because he's not doing that, he's useless to me. Do you know what I mean? Even when he wins the ball back, sometimes he gives away needless free kicks. He's a bit late in the challenge, and it affects his whole game. His pressing numbers drop down significantly when he's not playing well. He doesn't win the ball. He's not the same destroyer. So I need a player that's consistent. And this guy, for me, he's going to do what Bissouma does and more. So the criticism I have with Bissouma is his scanning, but also his ability to pass, to find the ball, to play a forward pass, to play a progressive pass, to help the team. You know, if you can't carry the ball, then what else can you do? This guy can do a bit of everything. And that's what I need in my midfield. Someone that can break the ball up, win that ball back high up, and then carry it and then pass. And you can see it in his metrics there. The defensive metrics are insane. Tackles and interceptions. For me, interceptions is even more important because that means you're able to read a game. You're able to pick that ball up and see where to be positionally to win that ball back. And so, yeah, look.
How tall is he? His aerials is good as well.
It doesn't matter. If you've got a good leap, if you've got a good jump, height doesn't
81
matter.
kg. He's a big boy.
Yeah, it's about time. Look, it says it in the tackles. The tackles are there. So for me, if you want a player that, you know, can a midfielder closer to Casado, that's the one I'll put all my eggs on. Forget all the attackers and all that. If everyone said in my fan base they want a 6, 6 should be the priority. And for me, this guy he's the one. He's the one. And I've looked at a few 6s. I've looked at a few. I've looked at even Chelsea's ones. I've looked at, because Chelsea have got a number 6 coming back that they loaned out to Strasbourg, and he's mashing up not La Liga, Ligue 1. He's tearing it up. He's like one of the best players in that league. But yeah, Chelsea are stacked when it comes to midfielders. They got a guy called Asuego from Spain. He's doing well, but yeah, their DMs, they've got it on lock. So I'm saying, look, Spurs need that mode of play. You've got your Bruno Guimaraes, you've got Tonali,
yeah,
and Joe Linton. They're all physical players. But with Spurs, we've got Bentancur and Bissouma. Bentancur, he's not good at getting on the turn. He's not good at checking his mirrors and receiving under pressure. You understand? So that's why those two have to play in a double pivot, because they kind of negate each other's flaws slightly. And it looks a little bit better for Spurs when we have those two players. But this guy, for me, raises the floor, in my opinion. And if we're going to Champions League...
Sorry, go on. Champions League.
If we're going to Champions League, we need a player. We need a player like this.
Do you know, for a minute, I took Ashe off there for a minute. For a minute, I thought, what Champions League? Oh, yes, forget. Of course, they got you got in there. Fair play. I was going to say, so is anybody in for him? Because he sounds proper.
No, I don't know. Not that I'm aware of. We're not in for him. So, you know, I'm pissed. But that, like I said to you, there's some players that I like that we're not in for. And he's one of them. Do you know what I mean? There's another player. There's loads of players I like. But yeah. There's a guy called Rocco Reitz. I think he's for a place for
I knew you'd get to the right players from watching
because
them.
you know why I like. Do you know why? Do you know why I? If like Ange was to stay, we missed out on Gallagher, and I think that profile is something
Big.
that
It's huge.
he
It's huge.
he wants
It's
that like.
huge.
And I was surprised that Spurs didn't pick up any alternatives once we didn't get like a Gallagher who was never coming to us because he's a Chelsea boy, and you know his family's from Cobham and that. So I'm looking at these guys and I'm like, bro, why are we not getting some of these players in? It doesn't make any sense. But that's one off the top of my head. Another guy, Ravella, he plays for Lazio, Swedish player, really good, covers a lot of ground, technical, could pass from, you know, he's got the passing range that you want, carries the balls, aggressive, can shoot from distance. There's so many, man.
I'm gonna get your take on. That's really, really how like some really exciting players I'm gonna be keeping an eye on as well. I'm gonna go for the last couple of minutes left. I'm gonna just quickly go through the chat and then get this whole Mbeumo thing, get your kind of take on it as well.
Yeah.
Using some of the old slides I did, but I'll get 2 minutes on the chat. Big up Archer, thank you for liking and subscribing. Big up Toon and Ashe, like and subscribe. I have a soft spot for Newcastle. Appreciate you, Archer. Who do you support, Archer? I think is it Sam? Oh gosh, where is it? Lost myself there. Sam. I don't care how much he gets. He gets not my money. Plus, he's an improvement for me. I'll finish around Mbeumo. Okay, we'll get to Mbeumo in a moment. Some debates here. Let me get it. All right, so we're talking about Mbeumo. A few people have been talking about Mbeumo as well, and just to kind of, I've been talking to you a lot about the right wing forwards before, even off screen, that I like to prefer. Hence why you got Kulusevski here, kind of as well. And the chat will know as well, even my own kind of admiration for Madueke, for instance, to their disbelief. So I only lay that out to kind of make it to kind of explain to, because it's always difficult to have these kind of conversations and trying to be objective, to say that I've got no bitterness, like I've got no skin in the game. Maybe if you're talking about maybe some other players, maybe I would have. So the things that they might hear me say is not like out of because we didn't get the player type of thing, but cool. So we, like with the channel, we was looking for right wing forwards the other week. So I was doing like player comparisons and the differences between. It also kind of helped understand, you know, the style of player that we're looking at essentially. And Mbeumo essentially is. Had it even a little bit. Did I have it a little bit here? He's very much like a final third type of player. Yes, he plays for a counter-attacking team, but his goal efficiency is very, 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 very high. If you compare him to Kulusevski in terms of stats and everything, Kulu kind of takes more of a playmaker, creator type of role. Can he shoot? Can he assist? Yes, but he's more like a functional dribbler who can play who loves the attacking midfield role. You would know Ashe, and he himself has said, like in numerous interviews, please put me in the number 10 role or the attacking midfield role. I can see the pitch more. Like that's what I'm not a big fan of being in the right wing, on the flanks and stuff like that. Please put me in the centre midfield. So that's Kulu. So I mentioned that for Kulu because that's not his thing. And Mbeumo is the opposite. He's very much a final third type of player. He goals and assists. You'll see that as well. He kind of, especially this year, he got obviously the 20 goals or whatnot, which I think is the highest that he's kind of is received so high, and it's really, really good. Obviously, playing for a team that's essentially played mid-table in Brentford. Now, obviously, we've got the news now. I don't know what the deal is at the moment, but I thought pretty much that Man United had it wrapped up. Now we're getting all sorts of news outlets saying he's making all these type of demands. I personally think it's the media just trying to get as much from the story as possible. I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of this week the deal is wrapped up. Newcastle, we're just kind of give you background. Newcastle were interested in him to some degree. As we all know, there's always a first, second, and third. I think it's pretty much on top of like one of our first priority type of players. But I think in that first priority, there's a number of first priorities as well. We were kind of first quoted the price of 50 million a month or two ago from Brentford. That became big news, which kind of let me know that Newcastle were probably coming in with a 35, 40 million type of offer for him. Hence why Brentford were telling everybody it's 50 million. We don't know how much Man United are going to buy him for. People are now saying that Brentford want like something close to what the Cunha price was, which was 62.5 million. If that were, again, I think until the dust settles, we don't know what the final price would be. So maybe that'd be a question to ask you at the moment. At the end of it is, how much do you think it should be? How much would you say the transfer fee is? Most scouts that I've read and seen, he's kind of ranked in the tier 2 in terms of right wing forward. So when we're talking about tier 1s, Saka, Salah, even Ryan Cherky to some degree as well. And there's a few others that I couldn't. Lamine Yamal, for instance, tier 1. If you were to tier 1 right wing forwards, whereas Mbeumo will kind of drop into the right wing forwards in the tier 2 section. Some of the things that we're talking about is, yes, he can dribble, but he's not like an exceptional dribbler, which is what I'm really looking forward. I think Newcastle need in their right wing forward position, and he is kind of constantly compared with a Salah in certain ways. But he is, if you hear what other scouts are saying, is that he's good at crossing. That's his main thing, but he doesn't necessarily have the vision to that level in terms of his creativity, which is fine. So, might not have gone in for him. I'll just say that if, and I've said it before to others, I think for me, Newcastle, I believe Newcastle went in for probably about 40, maybe the highest 45 million for him. I think that's the realistic valuation for him. But it all depends on the club that's there. Obviously, I would prefer a Kulu, Madueke, even an Akliouche if he can play in the league type of side. That's just my preference. But that's enough about me. That's from my kind of perspective. Man United have gone in for him. The main thing is, how do you kind of assess Mbeumo? What do you think can be done for him? Obviously, there's other kind of news that him and Cunha, for instance, had some. Because I don't notice that too well, but they were talking about his non-penalty goal stats, something like that. That it was that it succeeded it, and it's unlikely to do it again. I think all this stuff comes out after
Yeah, so I don't know if you can hear me, but I'm just going to talk. So I just think if I'm looking at weaknesses for for Mbeumo, or Mbeumo as we call it, Mbeumo for me aerially needs to work a lot better. So in the air, in terms of header in the ball, he needs to work a lot in that. His jumping, his physicality in the air as well, attacking the headers, attacking the goal in terms of headers. That's not really one of his strengths, in my opinion. I think without the ball as well, defending, the numbers would show that, he's not too bad in terms of defensive work. But when I did watch him and he had to help out his fullback, he just needs to learn how to use his upper body strength or his lower body strength to kind of win those ball backs, to help out his fullbacks or the wing backs, wherever he's covering. Because he's had to do that, and sometimes it's cost Brentford in those positions. So that's something I also observed. Long passing as well. He's not really a playmaker like that. So in terms of long passing, it's not as good, in my opinion, as it should be. I think he needs to work on it a little bit more. Something he can improve on. But yeah, like you said, in terms of crossing, yeah, he's got it. That's what is one of his main attributes are. He's got different types of cross as well, so he can do the hanging type of cross, where it goes to the back post, and he's lots of players like to attack those type of hanging crosses, those long hanging crosses. He can put whip on it as well, so he can put like an in swinger with his crosses when he's in play as well, so playing out wide. So a lot of his good work is out wide, if I'm being totally honest. In terms of dribbling, it's a bit like the whole Salah debate. Yeah, he hasn't got a loads of tricks, but he's got enough tricks in his locker to kind of unbalance players, because his agility is quite good. His feet are quite quick. I think that's how he unsettles defenders. So he's able to put onto his left and onto his right, or right into left, and he's able to go on the outside quite cleverly, quite quickly as well. And he's got a good level of IQ. I think that's how he beats a lot of players, because he does a lot of fakes where he fakes to cross it or fakes to pass, and then he goes inside, or he fakes to go one way and then he goes the other way. So he's got that about him in terms of the level of skill ability, which won't probably show on FBref. But yeah, in terms of like ball carrying and dribbling, it's not too bad for me. It's good enough. When he gets in the final third, he's that final third player where that's when he comes alive. Even when he's receiving the ball, so like Brentford tend to go long at times, and they will play the ball into him. He's able to protect the ball from like goal kicks. He's able to bring the ball down, shield the ball well, and then carry the ball up, and then push his team up the pitch. He's really good at doing that. I remember him and Wisa would make a run off him, and the ball come into him, and he's able to find Wisa just by protecting the ball and then turning into space and then quickly sorting his feet out and then finding the right pace. Some players, they overdo it, and some players, they don't release the ball quick enough. You're not going to get that from Mbeumo. And so that's something I'm looking at, and I'm like, oh, okay, he's a good player there. I think his finishing, his weaker foot finishing, is incredible. I'll be honest with you. Like, I'm talking about different types of finishes as well. I'm talking about, inside of the foot placement finishes. I'm talking about half volleys. I'm talking about delicate chips. And so the variety of finishing on either foot for me is impressive, but he's more or less used on the right wing. And I think that's the reason why when Tony was there, he actually played in a 2 at times, because his finishing was so good. So he can play as a 2, or he can play out wide and be used in that way. But I liked him before this 20 goals or 21 goals he scored. I know about 6 of them are penalties. So I think from open play, he scored like 14 goals from open play. But regardless of that, like the season he had before, I was screaming from Mbeumo then. I was like, Spurs need to get Mbeumo. We need to get him. We ended up getting Johnson instead. But, that's the conversation. But look, I really like Mbeumo. I haven't got much bad to say about him, if I'm being totally honest. I like his work rate as well. I like the fact he can shoot from like range. He doesn't always have to finish inside that box. I think that's something to be admired. This modern day age, you don't always see players taking a chance from distance, and that's gonna win you games. When you shoot from like outside the box or in and around that box, like you're not always having to have service. You don't like. I like players that they can fashion something out from themselves. They can create a chance for themselves, and that's what you're gonna get with Mbeumo. But yeah, like I said, 1v1 dribbling, even if he's doubled up on, because a lot of players, they suffer. If you put 2 men on a player, you might go missing. Also, like he interchanges well with the fullback. Sometimes he's able to stay on the outside and the fullback's able to underlap. When the fullback goes on the outside, he's able to cut inside. He uses the midfielders as well. Like Damsgaard was able to create for Damsgaard quite a bit through his, I call it the pauser. We kind of slow it down. You put your foot on the ball. It allows other, players to come into the game. And he's able to link up with Damsgaard quite well because of that. Or what he would do is when he's traveling inside that box, he can delay, and then he would do that pass. That kind of like reverse pass.
Yeah.
and then a fullback will run onto it, or a midfielder will run onto it, and then they do the cutback. That he's good at those kind of key pass metrics. Do you know what I mean? So like overall, yeah, like I said, I like him, but but like I said, the weaknesses, they're not many, man. Like defensively, he's not that great. Killer long pass, aerial challenges, not really too good, man. But the thing is, it's whether he can make the step up, because always like you say it's the same with Cunha at Wolves. Like he's the main man. You know what I'm saying? Now you've got two main men. Like you've got two men that were in a small pond, and now they're gonna have to play next to each other. Who's gonna be the star? Who's gonna fail? Who's gonna be the one that steps up? This is gonna be interesting. If they can, if Ruben Amorim can manage the egos, that would also be interesting. And obviously, you guys are linked to him. I think he would have solved your right wing issue, because you guys can play on the transition.
Yeah.
But so can Manchester United. To be honest with you, they like the transitions as well. So it'll be interesting to see how he fares if they get it over the line.
Pick up. Yeah, I agree with you. I think Mbeumo's a really, really great player. Really great player. Lots of engagement here about him as well. And by the way, big up to NUFC Talk TV raid. Appreciate you guys. My first raid ever. So thank you, Mighty Win. Really appreciate you for that. God bless you, sir. Good old FB ref. I'll take Mbeumo every time unless we can get Bowen. Everybody, I think Bowen's a hammer for life. He just got married to Danny Dyer's sister. He's a hammer for life, I think. But I'll just finish off on a few chats, and then we'll close off the show. Oh, there's tons. I think you guys are mainly kind of debating yourselves here, which is great. Yeah, I think most of you guys are debating yourselves, but it's been a proper lively chat as well. Ash, you've been absolutely phenomenal. And even though I do like the Spurs rival show with you guys every Wednesday and or whatnot, and I watch a lot of you guys' shows, as you know, I feel like I've learned even doubly more on all things Tottenham as well. And should everything go right, Ash, I'll give you a final prediction, right? If you get all the players that you would, well, that's unfair. Let's wait to see what players you do get.
No, I mean, look, I said to you before, when the players that I want and the players that the club have identified and spoke through agents and the way we do business, we're more of an opportunist club as opposed to a club that kind of looks at, this is what we need. Let's go and get it. Let's be aggressive. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
We kind of wait for things to die down, and then we might jump on, like, some of our targets. And also, we haven't really got the pull, if I'm being honest, like a Manchester have, or a Man City, or a Chelsea, etc. Like out of the so-called big six, we're not really viewed like that by like footballers and pundits.
Depends on what market you search, though. Because I think
It does depend on what market you search, but I think money talks personally. And the biggest problem with Spurs at the moment is the wage kind of bracket thing, where we don't always we spend big on transfers, but in terms of wages, our highest wage earner is Heung-min Son, and he's on 200k, and he's been linked with a move to Saudi, as we said earlier. Mm-hmm. So the club aren't renewing his contract, so I think they might want to cash in on him, and so that makes the wage budget even lower. And the player we're getting in is Tell, who's 19. He won't be in a lot of money either. So it would make room for another higher enough. We do get rid of Son, but again, Son was more of a more reliant kind of forward player that could, we could get goals out of, and we're losing a bit more of our goal threat. It does worry me slightly after finishing 17th. In terms of attracting players, either we need to cough up in the wages to attract them, or they really just have to buy into the project. But you're right, though. To be fair, in other markets, like I'm looking at our players just to finish off, because I know you want to end. There is one player. There is one player I do like that may come, and his name is Igor Paxo. I don't know if you've heard of him. Played in the Champions League. He's played for Feyenoord. I'm swimming a lot in the Dutch market at the moment, but
Okay.
basically he doesn't take their penalties, and he's scored 16 goals to them from the left. So he's not a striker, but he plays on as a forward, a wide forward. And I'm like, if I'm gonna get rid of Son, he's Brazilian. I need someone that can kind of beat his man 1v1, and he likes to shoot from outside the box. He shoots from distance. So, like Cunha, he can score from range. I'm looking at that player potentially to play on my left if Son's going. Ideally, I want Eze. He's the number one guy I would prefer. But if I have to look outside of that, I would say, look, people are saying Eze plays in the 10. You know, he could rival Madison's role. I would like to get someone that can, score goals. If not, and I was looking for a player that's done it in the Prem and has got more of a goal threat, I've said this to many people, I would take Lookman. But I just don't know if we could offer the wages, if he want to come to us. But Lookman, he's done it in the Premier League before. His dribbling style is a bit erratic, so it's not perfect. He looks a bit untidy, a bit raw. But in terms of finishing, in the last 2 seasons, he's got over 10 goals. He's had 10 plus goals in the last 2 seasons. I always look for not just one season, but previous seasons.
Yeah.
So if we're gonna lose Son, I need multiple players to kind of help circumvent, what we may miss, going forward. But Son hasn't been performing, if I'm being totally honest. Got 11 goals last season, so we that left side for me has to be addressed, as well as the right hand side, as well as a striker to contend with Johnson. There's a lot of work. I'll take Wisa. I'll tell you that, man. Wisa would take, and there's a guy called Guessans who plays for Guessan plays for, who's he play for again? Nice. Plays on the right wing, but can also play up front. I would check him out. Guessan. He could be an option for Newcastle. And he scored 16 goals. I like the 15, 16 goal mark.
Yeah.
So if we're not necessarily like the forward and you play out wide and you can create for others, I'm not mad at it. And by the way, Igor Pixar, I think he got 10 assists as well. So 16 goals, 10 assists, that's 26 goal contributions. I know it's a Dutch league. I know it's not rated, but I would take half of that. Do you know what I mean? Half of 26, I'll take half. You know what I mean?
Actually, it's been absolutely amazing. The chat, you guys have been off the chain today. And we'll be hoping to do a lot more of these type of shows as well, probably this Thursday actually as well, but we'll see how it goes. It's really important for us to get perspective from opposition fans as well. But let people know where they can find you.
Yeah, bro. Right now, meant to be on holiday. Channel's meant to be on holiday, but we'll probably run something tomorrow on Spurs Kings TV. So yeah, rival chat. If you see our WhatsApp group, it's just beef 24/7, and that's how I like it. Some people be like, put someone on the timeout. I said, nah, let them have their beef, man. Let them have it. So yeah, man. Listen, rivals always be warring each other, and people don't like each other, and I kind of like it that way. The toxic side of me likes that. That's what I like to watch, I suppose. But yeah, if you like more calm analysis like this, then obviously this is where we chop it up. We have sensible talks, and
you got to finish your sentence and your ideas. It must be a relief for you.
All right, listen, I don't mind sitting back and watching the fire just blaze, adding some wood to the fire as well. You know how we do, man. Come on. Like different shows for different folks,
It's true. That is true.
Gotta mix it up a little bit. You gotta mix it up. So
that is true. All right, folks. Well, there you have it. Looking from a rivals lens tonight, we had it with Ash. We spoke about all things Tottenham, players that have been linked to them. Talked about their squad depth and quality, their style of play. What went wrong in terms of the season, especially in the league? What went right? Obviously, them winning the cup as well. Style of play, Ange, and the players that Ashe is looking at for something to come in instead of what Spurs are looking at. I think Ash's picks are better than the Spurs so far. We both really like Akliouche. I think that there's got a bit of
I hope one of us get him. I hope one of us.
It's just to see, innit? Just to see, like,
I just want to see. Yeah. Sometimes I see a player, and I just want to see, like, was I wrong? Did I have it off? Do you know what I mean? Like, I remember last season, and we were talking about Bakayoko, and still no one's picked him up, and I'm like, are we missing something that others, other scouts are picking up on?
I picked up a look on him. He's very inconsistent. He's faded away. I don't think he's starting that much.
So I know he's been injured as well. So I know he hasn't played as many minutes as what he played the following season when he had exceptional numbers. Because again, that 15, 16 goal mark, he was around that. But in terms of ball carrying and dribbling, he was the one that replaced your not favorite, but one of your guys, Madueke. And so if you like Madueke, and he's made a jump from that league to Chelsea, could we not see something similar with Bakayoko is my question. Do you know what I mean? And I remember at Champions League, I think we played Liverpool and they bopped Liverpool off the park, and he was involved when they were passing and doing the olés, and he was like, they were dancing and having fun on the pitch. So Champions League, he's shown that he can do it at that level. So I'm surprised no one's really jumped at it. I think it might be the fee that they're asking as well. And I'm not sure if he's turned down a few clubs as well, because I'm not sure if West Ham went in for him and he was like, nah, don't want that. Do you know what I mean? It's a bit cheeky.
The struggle, man. I don't want the struggle.
But also for you lot, and I think you guys are about 2 or 3 players away from really challenging, because I remember when you guys were pushing for third that season when Ten Hag got third, when his first season. That season when you didn't have Europe, I felt like, you weren't far off it then. And this season you've kicked on again. I would say, like, if you were to get, I know it's controversial, but the West Ham player in Kudus, yeah. I think Kudus, no, because you know what it is with Kudus, I don't think he's a left winger. I think they're playing him out of position. I think he's a right winger. I'll be honest with you. When he was at Ajax,
he's left-footed, isn't he?
Yeah. He's left-footed. He's been played out of position. When he was at Ajax, he played on the right, and he also played in the 10, and he was devastating in the 10. I think he's not. And also, when I see him run centrally, no teams can handle him. He will take 2 or 3 players on. He will just put them in a headlock. So I think Kudus played in the right system on the right with space to run into, because with their new manager, they're trying to do this possession thing. Like, even the manager before that, they tried to do the possession thing. The way you guys play with the space in behind he can run into, quick transitions, Kudus on the right wing as opposed to the left wing, he's someone to look at. If you like, because I'm listening to what you're saying about in terms of dribbling, that's what you like, Madueke, kind of that kind of flashy, technical. For me, Kudus, I would test the waters and say, look.
We were linked with him like yesterday, but
was you?
Yeah, I kind of shut it down.
Look, see, told you. Take on. Look, that's what you want, isn't it?
Where is it? Oh,
successful take ons. That's what you want. Look, the only 2 green bars.
97, yeah, it's pretty high.
He's one of the best take on merchants in all 5 leagues. I'm telling you, bro. So
this is his forward. So that's him compared to other attackers and wingers. This is compared to midfielders.
But what did I say he should play? On the right wing, right?
So forwards.
Yeah, so inside forwards. Look.
95 shot creating actions, 93 pass attempted, completed a 98, progressive passes, 85.
In your front 3, I think, bruv, listen.
99 for successful take-ons.
Well, I'm telling you, you want that. That's what you told me for what you want. I'm saying Kudus. You said Madueke. You like Madueke. You love Kudus on the right wing, not on the left wing.
I just don't know why there isn't much more hype about him then.
Don't worry about hype. That's the problem. This is a problem with people, like fans in general. People, like, for example, my fan base don't want Thomas Frank. Do you think that they don't want Thomas Frank? Do you think I care?
True.
You think I care that they don't want Thomas Frank? I don't care.
No, I mean it in a sense of from clubs. So we know about Mbeumo because Man United, Tottenham.
But people weren't screaming Mbeumo last season. I was
True.
screaming Mbeumo last season. I said Mbeumo, and now obviously he's blowing up. And I was, oh yeah, Mbeumo, yeah. That Semenyo, he's another one, yeah. But
5 goals, 3 assists.
he's gone up and down. But I
team.
like the physicality of Semenyo. I like that he's the structure, the build of him, the fact that they play him on the right and they play him on the left. Like I like that. But he is a bit inconsistent, Semenyo. But I do still like him.
Adrian Pickett is saying Kudus if we don't get Saka. Andy here says Kudus passes the test. A lot of people are sold on this.
Bro, have a look. Have a look at Kudus, bro. I'm telling you, have a look. Do a little scout watch if you can.
Is he too left-footed though? Is he? Okay, I'll do a scout watch. I'm gonna stop talking. Andy says Kudus is powerful. Yeah, you got people on this. Like you're gonna have people going through all sorts of scout reports.
Yeah, no, these are like the obvious players. Sometimes, like, yeah, do you know what I mean? Players that people know and seen. Kudos for me. Yeah, because I remember Mente, you got rid of, right? Top player, right? Where did he come from? Again, the Dutch league, isn't it? Where Kudos come from? Where Bakayoko come from?
Yeah.
Where Madueke came from? Yeah, these type of black techie ballers that you like. Well, I see it, bro. Listen, you'll love Kudus on a right. That's all I'm gonna say. Yeah, hard to get the ball off, but once he's under good management, I think the coaching around him as well. Awful.
Does he play with his head up?
Awful.
He plays with his head up.
Yeah. Yes, he does.
5 goals, 3 assists. Poor West Ham team.
Look, he's had a poor season, in my opinion. Kudus has an absolutely poor season, but that doesn't mean he's not a good player. And I could say that about a lot of West Ham players. See, if you listen to all fans, then you'll be like, oh yeah, let me not get him.
Kudus would be good at
Newcastle. Away from everyone. Look at Kudus alone, yeah, and look at him not just this season. Look at him last season, and go back to the Ajax days, please, and then let me know about Kudus. Do you know what I mean?
All right, chat. Yeah. You've heard it here first. If we get Kudus over the line, we're gonna go back to this, and we're gonna be talking about. I have to get Ash back on here, and I'll be like, Ash, you told us so. You told us so. Let's see what happens. Well, guys, you've been absolutely magnificent. I've thoroughly enjoyed the show as well. Always do, my guy Ash as well. As always, guys, you can find him on Spurs Kings TV. As always, guys, make sure you look after each other. And as always, folks, God bless now. Take care.